Hi there, Chris. Thanks for joining me today.
Mhm. Absolute
Um,
pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Really excited to have you come to ACM for the Guitar Summit on May the 4th. You're a name that comes up all the time in class.
What are you teaching them?
Hopefully to play the guitar well.
Yeah, fair one.
So I'm going to start with a fairly standard question, which is probably the one I start with all the time. And that's it. What are you up to musically at the moment?
Thankfully, at this exact moment, very little. We've just come off the back of a fairly hectic kind of 2.5 week tour around Europe with my band, Cardinal Black. So we were in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. Now intimately acquainted with the Austrian police and their fastidiousness when it comes to weight limits of vans. So yeah, the last couple of weeks have been pretty hectic. So I'm gladly just fanning about on YouTube at the moment, kind of making videos. Back to doing that for a couple of weeks, but it's all about to kick off again very, very soon. We're just finishing up our second record. So we've been back for Switzerland, a beautiful studio in just outside Zurich called Powerplay in Switzerland, recording that, which is amazing because Switzerland is a famously cheap place to live and eat and record and be. But incredible recording studio, which has very much offset the expenses elsewhere. But finishing the second records, waited to get that kind of mixed and mastered and all the kind of next step. This the accompanying tour for that then around the UK, and we're off to the US in the summer. We're playing Nashville, LA, and Omaha, playing the Troubadour in LA as well, which is definitely one off my bucket list. We announced the Nashville show, and that sold out in a couple of hours, so we had to bump it to a bigger venue. So it's been a hectic couple of weeks, and most of this was happening while we were on tour in Germany. So it's been a very busy couple of weeks. So mercifully, bugger all at present, at least for the foreseeable.
Brilliant. Now, I suppose why I've got you here really is to talk about guitar and particularly your approach to
Mm.
playing the guitar. And you're really known for this incredibly expressive style that you have. Can you give me sort of a bit of background as how you developed that style and what your influences were?
I guess inevitably anyone's kind of style or their how they play or whatever is a combination of kind of like an accumulation or just all of their influences kind of thrown into a pot, and inevitably, however much I may have tried to sound like other people growing up, you're only ever ultimately going to sound like yourself because you are yourself. I'm me, as much as I was desperate to sound like Slash as a kid, I kind of never really fully pulled it off. But I think if there is a kind of like expressiveness, well, I mean, thank you first and foremost. If there is a kind of like expressiveness in my playing, a lot of it comes down to being influenced by singers as much as, if not more so, the guitar players. To be honest, like a lot of my parents' record collection growing up was, kind of great Motown or great soul stuff, or like listening to what my grandfather would play me in the car when he picked me up from school, whether it was Frank Sinatra or Nat King Cole or kind of like crooners, Bing Crosby, and listening to and being kind of forced to a degree. I remember my grandfather would go on ad nauseum about phrasing, listen to his phrasing. And I didn't really get what that meant. I was kind of like, well, surely you either sing the lyrics or you don't sing the lyrics. That's you just sing the words. He's like, no, listen to the kind of like his breathing and where he stops and how he cuts off certain notes and how he elongates other notes and stuff like that. Whether it's like I said, whether it's Aretha Franklin, whether it's Otis Redding, all of these kind of great vocalists that I grew up listening to, subconsciously or consciously to some degree, I've tried to cop that phrasing. A lot of jazz guitar players have done it with horn players over the years. Trying to kind of cop phrasing from great horn players. It's kind of what I've done with vocalists. Just trying to emulate to some degree that fluidity or that like effortlessness of phrasing, and I think that's probably unique somewhat for guitarists, because it's such a kind of a well-trodden path. People get very kind of a little bit tunnel vision in regards to kind of not copying, but kind of like studying other guitar players, which is great, and I inevitably there's people I'm huge fans of, but when it comes to actually like phrasing and melodically trying to kind of like construct things, it's vocalists I look to first and foremost. So yeah, thank you. If there is a kind of fluidity or whatever, however you want to phrase it, in my playing, it's probably because I listen to vocalists more than I listen to guitar players, to be honest. And I've been very lucky to be in bands with great singers, like Sally Ann and Buck and Evans or Tom and Cardinal Black, both great singers with big voices and beautiful, effortless phrasing. So trying to kind of intermingle in that.
So do you sing yourself?
Yeah, not to any great extent. You wouldn't want me fronting a band. Got a voice like a goose farting in the fog, but I do a lot of backing vocals. Primarily, to be honest, at Tom's insistence, not insistence so much as encouragement, in regard to think how much stronger it would be if you could just sing thirds at the very least, kind of like do the basic kind of harmony stuff. So I just went through a phase, and I still do it now. If I'm in the car, when I'm on my own, not to inflict it on people around me, just listen to the radio, just try and sing the third on everything, or try and pick out a harmony, and it kind of gets you ingrained in that mode of thinking, I guess. So now, inevitably, when we're writing or when we're rehearsing, as much as I'm kind of focusing on the guitar part, constantly in the back of my mind is trying to pick out lines that would benefit from a harmony. Well, if there is a harmony, what harmony would it be? So live, there's actually 4 singers in the band. There's obviously Tom, there's myself, there's Tay, our kind of pretty much kind of full-time backing singer at this point, and Greg, our keys player, who's been pretty much our kind of full-time keys player. So there's 4 voices within the band. So picking out harmony parts within each of us and working out who sits well in what range, and et cetera, et cetera. I take a lot of enjoyment in that, probably marginally more so than the guitar, to be honest. I love that. My favorite moments of the set are where I know I have kind of like big vocal moments coming up, or kind of key harmonies that I have to kind of nail, otherwise it'll sound crap. So yeah, I love all that stuff. I'm not very good at it, but I love it.
I mean, backing vocals is such an important skill. If you've got it, it's amazing to have that
in
the bank.
People go on about it at length, about it as session guitar players, especially. I guess it makes you that much more employable, because you're kind of covering 2 bases, I guess. Something, it might be a separate backing singer that might have to be employed, but if you can just kind of cover basic thirds and stuff, you're going to be infinitely more attractive. Not that and my thinking, to be honest, I've always been a kind of like a band guy. I've never kind of gone down the session route particularly, but just for the betterment of the band as much as anything else, was my kind of reason for doing it.
And I suppose it's there now, so you've got that skill.
Yeah, it's and again, it's something I practice, and it's something that what I struggle with is not so much the singing, so much as the kind of like that element of trying to do 2 different things at once. That's what I still find a little bit difficult. So if there's something that I'm doing on the guitar which is particularly involved, I'll probably delegate any potential harmonies to maybe Tay or Greg or whatever, who aren't doing something quite so busy at that point. But again, learning to adapt parts in a live context, simplifying parts, making them slightly easier, slightly kind of easier to navigate, so you can nail that harmony at the same time. It's all a bit of a juggling act.
So to an extent then, is your guitar playing really your lead vocal?
Yeah, I guess so. I've never really thought of it as such, I guess. But like I said, I try make every effort I can, whether I succeed all the time is another matter. But I make every effort to try and play, melodically, and play with intent, and play something that's interesting, and not get bogged down in the inevitable guitar player kind of mindless noodling and wanking kind of thing that we can all be a little bit guilty of on occasion. Just trying to play something musical. It's Cardinal Black is very much like a song-orientated band, much to some people's annoyance, I think, especially off the back of maybe seeing me on YouTube or seeing me on social media. When Cardinal Black launched, I think a lot of people anyway, were kind of half expecting or hoping for kind of like Chris Buck and the whatever, kind of like very much a vehicle for me just to go out and kind of like try and melt people's faces, which is great. And I understand why certain people do that. But for me, that's never held a great deal of interest. All of the music I listen to is song based, whether it's any of the guys that I've spoken about earlier, the old kind of like 50s stuff, Nat King Cole, Frank Sinatra, through to, I don't know, like been listening to a lot of Haim recently, or like Ryan Adams or Paolo Nutini, whoever my kind of more modern influence is. It's all about the song. And that's not to put ourselves on par with those guys as songwriters. Inevitably, it's one of those things that the more that you do it, the better you get at it. So hopefully we're all improving as writers. But it never interested me in the slightest to kind of come out all guns blazing in terms of like, right, let's just melt people's faces as a guitar band for the next couple of years, because like I said, it doesn't particularly interest me. So, but that said, within the moments of guitar then that I do play, and inevitably if you come and watch us live, there's a lot of guitar solos. So, don't be dispirited in that sense, anyone. But trying to play melodically and trying to play vocally is at the heart of it, I guess.
I mean, a lot of people have argued over the years that the great guitar solos have always come out of great songs anyway.
Oh, totally. Like, yeah, name a great guitar solo that isn't housed in a great song to some degree. It's, I don't know, pick out off the top of your head, Freebird. Freebird's got that epic, amazing solo at the end, but Freebird is a great track. Lyrically and melodically and structurally, it's a great track. Sweet Child of Mine, all of these amazing guitar solos that people kind of pinpoint are within great songs. The epic guitar moments within terrible songs, nobody really kind of talks about. So, it is what it is. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you mentioned about the online guitar community there, and you've had quite a lot of support from the online community. Have you got any advice for sort of young guitarists and young musicians coming up as to how to build an online presence?
Yeah, funnily enough, I had a comment on YouTube the other day because I made a video about social media and about social media in relation to what I do and how it is kind of integral to be a modern day musician to a degree. And someone really took me to task on it, saying, if you want to be a session guy or if you just want to be a kind of like a job in function band guy or whatever, you don't need social media. I'm like, well, yeah, of course, there's exceptions to every rule. I mean, Tom Bukovac, prior to his YouTube stuff, I didn't really know Tom Bukovac's name, but one of the most successful kind of session players in existence. He's played on everything over the years. Same with Tim Pierce. Tim Pierce, I guess, in a wider context, has become known to the guitar community since his YouTube channel. But his work prior to that as a session player, first call session player in LA, was exemplary. It's obviously there are ways to exist without social media, but I think in terms of reaching a wider audience, and I can only talk from personal experience, and the amount of opportunities and situations and just kind of amazing things that have come my way as a consequence of social media, has kind of transformed my life, really. It was obviously the YouTube channel, I guess, is a big part of that, and having amassed a kind of decent sort of audience on YouTube. Nowhere, comparative to some of the bigger YouTubers, but I don't really put myself in that category because I haven't really got the time to put the effort into it. Those guys put into it. Those guys with huge YouTube channels are full-time content creators. I'm doing it invariably from the back of a van in Germany, trying to bloody, working around sound check or whatever, So it's a slightly different kettle of fish, but just on my YouTube channel alone, the kind of opportunities which have come my way as a consequence of that, entirely thanks to my wife. I was uploading pretty much exclusively to Instagram and Facebook, and my wife, who's kind of a little bit more kind of savvy with YouTube at that time, said, you should upload these videos to YouTube because you can monetize YouTube, and even if it's a couple of quid a month, it'll just kind of like slowly start trickling into the background. And I remember thinking, well, if I'm going to do it, I want to do it properly, and I don't want to just upload the same content to YouTube that I'm uploading to Facebook or Instagram. I'll do like a dedicated thing. So I started Friday Fretworks with zero concept of what I was actually saying when I started the first episode by saying this will be a once a week thing. And then fast forward 4 years, this kind of millstone around my neck of like every week grinding out a video about guitar. But it's great fun and I enjoy it. It is a bit of a bind on occasion when you're busy doing other stuff, whether it's work stuff, whether it's touring, whether it's recording, whether it's life. I have a family, I have a little boy, so there's a lot of stuff going on. Trying to kind of juggle all that can be a bit of a pain in the ass, but amassing a social media following is just persistence. It's just, kind of like chipping away at it constantly. Even when you don't want to upload a video, if you feel like it's something which is going to benefit your career, get something out,